You're about to make the most amazing sourdough biscuits.
So now we're going to taste it. Oh, cool. Look at this. You can check out this cross section. Cross section looks amazing.
Hi, this is Mothers and Chef, and we are making sourdough starter discard biscuits. And I have a special guest, my granddaughter, Phoenix Mo. And she has been in the kitchen a lot. She is a very experienced.
Learn to cook healthy food with creativity and confidence. Subscribe now and click the bell so you don't miss anything.
So again, it's a very conventional way to start with some cut up butter. I only have 5 tablespoons butter here and about 1 3/4 cup of flour. And I'm just going to do what normally you would do, and you can get a cutter, you can get a grater, but this is actually works very well. And until you get a probably pea size, they call it, until your butter's in the pea size. But I'm not worried about it, even if they're a little chunk here, a little chunk there. This will make about 12 biscuits. And so I'm just going to do this to my dried ingredients, and then I'm going to add some salt, a little bit baking powder, baking soda, because I'm not letting my dough sit overnight. And this is what you have to do until your flour got these little chunks of butter, or they call it pea size. All right, Phoenix, it's time for you to add some wet stuff. Here's my sourdough starter, 3/4 cup. And you can use this to scoop it out. Okay, there you go. Great. Yeah. All right, you might not be able to get every single drop, but that's pretty good. That's wonderful. Okay. All right, now just try to mix it a little bit. Can you mix the flour with the wet a little bit? And your dough had to be dry. And so far it's dry. And I'm not adding any wet ingredients into it because I want this to be crumbly. Because that's what makes it a good biscuit. It's kind of crumbly. So I'm doing this, and I already added a little bit of wet, and I probably could have added just a little bit more. Okay, I had about exactly 3 tablespoons of olive oil, besides that 5 tablespoons of butter. And you can tell it's very crumbly, and it's perfect. This is where I want it to be. So now, once I get them all come together, I have to put them out on my counter. I'm going to sprinkle just, you don't want a lot of flour. That's a trick, because it's going to make your biscuit very hard. So I'm going to press it like this, because I'm not kneading. I just don't want to fall apart. All right. So I'm pressing, and then I can do the same thing. And it is coming together. It's not falling apart. And I pat it down a little bit. Okay. And here's your rolling pan. I have a very beautiful marble rolling pan that was made special for the biscuit.
What's special about it?
Because it stays cold and also very, very heavy. So it pressed down and it do not stick. It's not like a wood. Wood actually is a very warm material. I love my wooden rolling pins, but marble stays cold. And the biscuits want to stay cold so the butter doesn't melt. Or shortening, or lard, if you live in the South. All right, now, in order for me to have several layers for my biscuit, I have introduced a little bit of Parmesan cheese, because that will add an interesting, tasty kind of fat into my biscuits. Now, why this making sourdough biscuits is different than making a regular biscuits? Well, first of all, a lot of times they use buttermilk. But since I make sourdough starter, I have lots of discard. And using my discard, I'm introducing fermenting ingredients, which is really, really, really wonderful. And now I'm going to fold them into a couple of layers, just to give the layer into my biscuits. So And also I use 3/4 cup whole wheat pastry flour. And that's also unusual because most biscuits you eat are made of white flour or 100% white flour. And I fell in love with the whole wheat or the whole grain, the taste of whole grain. And so I'm trying to build several layers into my dough. So this is my, I'll call it my secret. I put the layers of cheese in between my rolled layer, and then I roll them up and I roll them up. And then when it's baked, first I have to put it in the refrigerator so everything is hardened. And then when they go into get baked, they will expand. And then also by having all these multi-layers, you will see that there'll be a wonderful flaky product. And it's different from a lot of the biscuits, especially white biscuits. Usually you can get a very wonderful flaky. And also if you use like 2 sticks of butter, which is, 16 tablespoons of butter, not with me, 5 tablespoons of butter here, and half a cup, of Parmesan cheese, and just a little bit of olive oil, just so my dough is not dried out. So now I'm actually ready to roll out this very crumbly piece, and I will be able to cut it and get a dozen or less. Okay, probably just enough to fill my pan here. I like to cut them triangles so I don't have to have scraps that I have to deal with. All right, so I just cut them into that shape.
This is great. You have no waste and you don't have to roll out.
Yeah, I don't have to roll it out again. And this is how I'm going to put it in my refrigerator until they get hard, and they will be expanded when they get cooked to twice as big. So, and you can tell it's already crumbly, which is a beautiful sign. And this is a wonderful tool you should have because it just does a beautiful job. And you can tell there's already layers without cooking. And so these multi-layers were puffed up. And you can use parchment paper, but I, for one, don't want to be so wasteful. I just would use some olive oil in my pan. And these are so rich, they're not going to stick to the pan. So I'm going to let it sit in the refrigerator for half an hour, and then I'll bake them for 15 minutes at 425 degrees. Why is this recipe special? Why I like doing this? Because first of all, you got the sourdough starter discard, number one. And then second of all, you use yogurt. And then third, you use very little bit of butter. People will say, are you crazy? 1 3/4 cup of flour and you only use 5 tablespoons of butter? I mean, I did make a batch. And my daughter want to eat the whole thing, the whole tray. And so I would say that until you have tried this low-fat special, you are missing something, because my family just loved it. I just took this out from my refrigerator. It's been there for about 25 minutes, and I can already tell they are coming together. So that little bit of time to let the butter really hold everything together, it's very important. And when you go into the oven, they will cook a little bit slower because of the cold. And that make them puffed up a lot because of the slowly cooking in a very hot oven. It took me all this time even to heat up my oven to be 425 degrees. Wow, they're beautiful. They are toasty, and I can tell that they are the layers in between. So just biting into them, I'm positive will be amazing. So I'm going to bring them all out, and then I'm going to have my son here probably do a little test. He happened to be here in the kitchen. And since we can't translate the smell is just, oh, so beautiful. And I'm the kind of cook who want to cook healthy. So I didn't want to put 2 sticks of butter in here. And, you know, it's like, how can you eat like that and be healthy? Just look at it. This is not one of those skinny biscuits. This is definitely very rich. And I kind of know that fat, salt, cheese, all these things create flavors. So this is going to have flavor.
Generally, we like to let these sit for a little bit, and when the biscuits cool, they actually taste, their flavor comes out. But I'm going to taste it now. This looks a little too good, and I can't wait. So put a little bit of butter on there. Okay. Shall we? Okay, so these biscuits happen to be delicious.
Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell.